in 2011. Bob's career as a public servant also consisted of serving as both a Special Assistant Attorney General of Illinois and Special Assistant State's Attorney. As your Attorney General, Bob will fight for the same things he fought for as a veteran attorney and in the Chicago City Council: the education, job creation, and public safety of our communities. Please give a warm welcome to Bob Fioretti.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you for coming out today on this Memorial Day weekend. To our veterans, thank you for the service that you've done. Quite frankly, I'm not going to try to repeat everything that we've heard. We know tomorrow when we go to church, talk to your people around you, say you got to vote, make sure everybody's registered. People are angry. We already know that. But is that anger going to propel people to get to the polls? I'm not sure. They're angry, that's for sure. But will they go and vote? I was asked to actually give a speech in Athens, Greece, at the end of April on democracy, the rule of law, the courts, and public opinion. And after the speech, and everybody thought it was all great, and they applauded, and I was honored to be speaking with people from an international group. And there were 3 attorneys that were from Chicago, some of the biggest PI firms in the city of Chicago. And they write the checks for the people. They write whatever Pritzker says, whatever Chris Welch says, all the way down the line, Don Harmon, the whole bit. And I mean, they write not little checks. $25,000 is nothing. And we started talking, and all of a sudden, they were saying about how great Pritzker is. And I started going, oh, wait a minute. He's raised taxes 57 times. His budget has just exploded. Do you believe in open borders? Do you believe in this and that? And as we went down the list, and they all said, Bob, I didn't know that. And it's like, how do we tell the people that are drinking the Kool-Aid to stop drinking that Kool-Aid? And it's going to require everyone in this room to knock on doors, just not only in your area. My last name is Fioretti. It means little flower. Nice little name in Italian. Why? Because my grandfather was abandoned in a field of little flowers outside of an orphanage. And when they came here legally, they went through the process, and they instilled in me, my dad came with them, and they instilled and said, you've got to do 3 things. 1, get a good education. I did get that. 2, work hard. I've worked hard my whole life. And 3, give back to your community. And giving back to my community is people in this room. As we celebrate Memorial Day, growing up in the city of Chicago, there was a veteran on every block. I had a guy who worked with me, or for me, when I was president of the Historic Pullman Foundation, and we created, which led to the National Park, a guy by the name of Fred Levy. On Sundays, he would be the usher, collect the money. And I was that tall, growing up, and everybody knew he was one of the veterans. And we never heard from them. But 50 years after, all of a sudden I'm reading, when the Tribune used to be a paper, and not whatever it is now, the magazine, and I'm reading through it, and they're talking about, there was a woman and a guy on the front page of the magazine. Well, Fred, it turned out, finally broke his, what he was doing. He finally came out. And he was a guy who was the co-pilot on the plane that dropped the bomb in Nagasaki. And I read that and I was like, wait a minute, I gotta call Fred up. Because he's our docent, he gives out tours and whatnot. And everywhere I went, and I brought him to a number of places, and we had 100, 150 people often to hear Fred talk about his experience. And it was like, people came up to him, and if it wasn't for him, and they brought their sons or grandsons, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here. I heard it often and often. And he was a guy that fought for our freedom. My next door neighbor, a tank commander in Africa, I remember him. He was crazy as they come. A good guy, crazy in a good sense, because he would always try to take us out to a ball game or something, teach us what's right and wrong. You know, we're living in some trying times, and we can all say it, especially in this state. You know, and Jim, when you get to Congress, and I think if you keep doing it, I saw you the other night in Will County, and you had to go to that other meeting, and I was speaking right after you, that, you know, we got to address the people coming into this country, making sure that they follow the rules and the regulations. But we got to address our health care. You know, when I was in the city council, and they did everything they could to stop me from going into the city council. I was running as an independent, and yes, Dennis would say, yeah, Bob, you were once a Democrat. I did. You know, you're growing up in the city of Chicago, there was not too much, but Democrats were halfway sane then. You know, somewhere they lost themselves. They lost about what we stand for in this party: faith and freedom. Freedom meaning all the amendments, fiscal responsibility, and family. Somewhere the Democrats lost all of that. You know, but when you get to Congress, one of the things that, you know, I had a bad bout with cancer in between and I was stage 4. I lost 60 pounds. I put 50 on, 50 back on. Everything's in remission. I'm in great shape, you know. And I had a Cadillac policy, Blue Cross Blue Shield. And Jim, you know, despite the fact that the millions of dollars they spent on treatment through those insurance, I was still $170,000 in debt. But 2 of my doctors, both independents, said, you know, Bob, you gotta go into bankruptcy. I said, no, I'm an elected official, number 1, and 2, I'm a lawyer. I'll pay it off slowly and surely because, you know, it gets to be rough when you have those kind of bills. So we got to reform that whole system. I'm just throwing it out there now to tell you. But, you know, we need common sense in terms of what we do. And the Attorney General has probably more power than the governor. We keep people in line. We deal with the election code. We deal with the criminal code. You know, the things that happen in Chicago and in Cook County would never have happened if we would have had a strong Attorney General and not a puppet out of Pritzker. I'm going to tell you just a couple other little items. Pritzker gave this current Attorney General $4 million over the 2 rings. Mike Madigan, who we all remember, who's now having a vacation down in Virginia, gave him $1 million. And his other entities gave him $3 million. And 23 out of the 25 people that testified in the Commonwealth Edison trials gave him contributions in close to $1 million. You know, there's a reason why they want him there. Because when you have a puppet, the puppet does what you want. So we need your help. This whole ticket needs your help. We can win. We have to turn that anger into the common sense values of faith, family, fiscal responsibility, and freedom. Make sure people know that, and we will win in November. I need your help. I'm Bob Fioretti. I'm running for Attorney General, and thank you everybody for being here.